Meeting to order. Do we have any declarations of conflict?
None.
Can I get an approval of the agenda? Moved by Councilor McKellar.
The only thing that we're going to add on again is to talk about verbatim to get some direction of how we want to move
That's here.
forward as a.
It's here. B.
And did we get the other item on that I emailed about? Did we get the other item on here that I emailed about that Councilor Duffy had asked about? If not, we should pop that on.
Yeah, if it's not there, I would like to add a discussion on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee and the affordable housing aspect of life.
There's the sheets there.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Is everyone okay with adding those items on?
Yeah.
Okay. So do we? So the open draft minutes are in the package, and if I can get an approval of those. Moved by Councilor Duffy, second by Councilor McLeod. Any business arising from those minutes?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so we can go right on to the discussion items. And you're leaving after youth?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll
Try to
start
get back
with
as quick as I can.
okay, so we'll start with the Youth Engagement Committee membership, and the attachment is there.
So what happened here, Madam Chair, is that Lauren McKerney, who was on the committee, did indicate through an email exchange with staff that she wanted to stay on. It was missed. But I think with Johnny Gormley, not being able to participate because he's working in the city, Lauren can just fill in that position that was hers anyways.
She was already on there before.
Yeah, that's all. It's a very in and out. Any problem?
No? Do we need to, does that have to forward on to council for final approval, I would think?
Well, she's already on the committee.
Or does it?
You can,
What do we do in the case of Mr. Gormley since he was appointed? Does that have to be
Rescinded?
rescinded?
yes,
Yeah,
and just say that Lauren McKerney is to
right.
Remain?
to continue to stay on the committee.
So then we probably need a mover from here then to move it on to council, right? To put a, yeah, so if we can,
I'll move it.
Councilor McLeod, seconded by Councilor Duffy, that we rescind Mr. Gormley because he's a staff person, and that Lauren McKerney continues to stay on. Okay. All righty.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep. All right, so the next thing on here is verbatim excerpt, requests of council and committee meetings.
So, for Madam Chair, we have been asked in the past to do verbatims, and staff know we have to do them. If there's an IRAC appeal, obviously we have to prepare them for any legal use, or if there's any court request, we would do them for them as well. But it is time consuming for staff to be able to do them, and at times we have 2 or 3 or more into the ask. The last one was to go back and have to record a whole hour of discussion, and that would take up considerable time even in the review. So we're asking for some direction. Other municipalities that we've been checking around the country don't offer verbatim, but they do say, here's where you can get the information, here's where the meeting on YouTube, here's where it starts, and those kind of things. So we don't mind providing information, but we believe verbatim's time has passed when in this new modern era of YouTube, any information they want, they can get from there. So we'd like to propose that we do not provide verbatim unless for IRAC or court or for some other purpose we have to have. Other than that, we're asking that we provide the residents with the direction of where to find them on YouTube, and we can provide them even with the snips if we had to, but we wouldn't be able to provide them where to go for that information.
And it's always online, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can always,
It's
because
yeah,
I re-listen to
it's
I re-listen to the
yeah,
meetings all the
absolutely.
time to hear different things and stuff.
And if I can operate it, everybody can operate it.
So if this came on concurrence, we would then bring that forward for council.
You need a resolution from here?
We should move it on for discussion at council if that's the wish of this committee.
I'll make a move, I'll move in that upon administration's concerns on verbatims, that we move ahead with stopping the verbatim requests and help the staff and council to go forward on YouTube and our webpage.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
Yeah. Okay. And all those in favor? Okay, any opposed? Yeah. Okay, so it's so moved. I mean, it'll be good to see what the council has in discussion on that, so it will move forward to council.
Jason?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right, standing committee terms of reference, reviews and revisions of the terms of reference. And the attachments are there. So are we, which one, I guess we're looking at all three of them, are we? We have the council advisory, affordable housing, and the youth engagement, but there should also be one for arts advisory, right?
That is part of the standing committee terms of reference. There's,
Oh, okay.
I think it's part of economic development's submission.
So Peter, so when we look at standing
If you
committees,
want to start with our own, our
Yep.
own committees, you may want to start there,
Yeah.
because as you recall, there has been a request as to what our committees' terms of reference are, so this is here for your review. If you need to add, subtract, or otherwise, it's, for the most part, your role is to appoint, review, advise of any changes, terms of reference, and to whether it's internal or external appointments. That's the most part here. Other than that, there's not much that we have done. If you want more, it can be added on here, but we can add whatever else that council prescribes to the committee to review is always an option. But right now, we see this as the realm of what the committee does now. But if you wish to do more or have at least an element of and conduct whatever other review or task that is given from council to the committee.
any discussion on the advisory committee terms of reference?
Yep.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So do you need a motion to move that to council?
So we will add on just and or whatever else council refers to the committee for review or not.
Do we need that? Why would we need that?
I think some of the other one have other tasks as defined, whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, whatever that
So we'll put
is.
that in here as well.
That may not fit under other standing committees.
Yeah, okay. So do we have a mover and a moved by Councillor Duffy and seconded by Councillor McLeod that we'll move the terms of reference of the Council Advisory Committee on to council for final approval. All right. And the next terms of reference, is that the youth engagement?
There was one change there, Madam Chair, and that is under the last bullet whereby it was previously reporting biannually to the strategic priorities. It now will read providing monthly written updates and reporting biannually to the strategic priorities. So that is the only change to that committee.
And you can see the new updated ones on the back. Anyone have any?
Looks good to me.
Everyone good with that heading to council? Yeah, okay. Yeah, moved by Councillor,
Are we through this one?
yeah, we're gonna just move and second it, that it goes to council.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Unless you have something else you want to add to youth engagement.
I just wanted to say that the three committees, advisory committees under planning, being planning, heritage and design review, they will not be responding to this request because they're there by.
There's one change happening, and that is the issue of the affordable housing will fall under them, under the terms.
No, we have that on the agenda today.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
yeah.
to decide what you want to do with
I haven't
it.
got there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet, yeah.
But so far, the youth engagement, that one can go on to council?
Yeah.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Cody, seconded by Councillor McLeod, that the terms of reference of the Youth Engagement Committee go on to council with the one change for final approval. Okay?
Yep.
All right. All right, so the next thing, I know that the last thing, do we want to do the discussion on the affordable housing since we're on the reviews of terms and reference, or do we want to leave that at the end and move on to the recommendations to remove the elected, the request from SPIC? What does everyone want to do? Want to keep it in
Might as well
order?
do the affordable housing once I'm through on that.
So the only change here, Madam Chair, again, the draft is here. What was recommended, if you recall, from strategic is that it be fall under the planning department due to their involvement in the housing stock, and it was a better fit. Alex is also on the provincial housing committee as well, so it flows better there, and so we would change the bullet number F, that they would flow to the under the planning and development.
And that's what I think we're
And
Councillor.
I've had discussions with Alex, like, you know, planning would like to do this, but they just don't have the resources. We're down a person, and I know they're actively looking for the person or have somebody in mind. We have a strategic, or a revision of the official plan to get up and rolling. We spend $100,000 on machinery to, anyway, it is the feeling of the staff over in the other building, they just don't have the time to do that. They're always under the gun as it is with the workload, just the ordinary everyday workload. And they just can't keep up. They're always under the gun, literally, because somebody hasn't gotten their approval, somebody hasn't gotten their decline, somebody hasn't gotten this or whatever. It's a constant state of bedlam over there. In addition, it's the nature of the work. The planning department over there is an adjudicative body, or is an adjudicative body that, you know, feeds all their systems feed into making decisions on housing, what will be built, and limitations and permissions to do certain things. This affordable housing thing is more an administrative thing. I think if Ron Lewis or if Ron Atkinson was still with us, as he looked after the taxation relief fund or whatever it was referred to, we see more planning, like planning thinks that it could have went to that function down in economic development,
So
or even under finance.
And you may be on the wrong topic.
Yeah.
That's a housing policy. That's yet to come back. This is all in terms of a reference for the advisory committee. That's not part of this discussion.
Yeah, but the problem is though, Peter, the advisory committee is already included and invited members and staff, members of planning to a meeting next Monday. Like, where did this come from? That's what I would like to know. This is almost like the old trick that they pulled with, not us here, but communities in Bloom. Like, I want the budget in this area, but I want the work to be done there. Like, it all seems to have been decided, including planning, without really the approval of council, for one.
That's why it's here for the committee to refer to council for the change. Again, Alex is already on the provincial affordable housing strategy. So it's a good fit for this, for the staffing piece. Alex has already been involved on this committee on behalf of planning. He will stay there, by the way.
Yeah.
So whether it's under him or not, he's still going to be on this
But the
committee.
workload, Peter, the workload of,
All departments are busy, Councillor. and-
not as busy as planning. Sorry, I'm sorry, no, I can't buy
We're
that.
hiring more staff there as well, as you're aware. So
I can't.
again, it's up to the committee.
Yeah.
But we believe.
I would like at a minimum see it deferred to council for discussion, the whole council.
That's where this is going.
Yeah. There's many committees we have at City Hall, and I'm not pointing any fingers. There's many that, no, I don't think anybody can state safely that there's no committees or departments busier than planning. I mean, it is a busy place, really busy.
And we are disputing that, but again, we're trying to find the right mix and the right fit. And because the provincial affordable housing piece is already there, it is a good fit, and the same person who's on that committee is also serves on this committee now, so that's why it was a good fit.
Well, this is going to be operating under that affordable housing directorate, right? This advisory committee, they will be like this. wherever that directorate falls will,
No, there's a provincial directorate that
Yeah.
Alex already sits on that one.
Yeah.
This is just a committee that would respond to the issues of the day to council, so it's on the advisory committee, which Alex is already on, so that will just continue to make any contributions that they feel need to come forward.
who, the advisory committee?
Yes, and so we're trying to, as you recall, we're trying to re-engage them, and if there's no value, then the intent was to discontinue, but they thought to give them one more opportunity to see what effect that this group brings forward to the city.
Okay. What I'm talking about is the day-to-day work
Right.
of this, what is going to be produced because of affordable housing. Take for granted, take for example, down with this 84 unit, or I'm sorry, 84 unit polyclinic. The developer is stating that there will be 84, 60,
64 units.
60 units of affordable units. I can't see that coming to fruition under the rules that we have put before, or we have before us.
So right now, ours is devised under the provincial program, that's correct. Whether or not they're involved with that program or involved with CMHC, our bylaws currently do not allow the CMHC portion, but does allow for the provincial portion.
Yeah, but there's going to be discussion at a minimum
But
about that.
again, this is not part of that discussion. There's two different documents, Councillor. One is the affordable housing policy, and that's the one that council has yet to discuss.
Yeah.
This is the committee that will, from time to time, bring forth recommendations or reports to council.
Yes, but Peter, the nature of the work, this is where this thing is going. The nature of the work isn't exclusive to the group in our new building down the corner of Parnell and Kent. That's what I'm saying is that this has a financial overtone to it that's stronger than the bricks and mortar of building and approving.
And that falls under the policy. Again, we're at two different things. This is only the terms reference for the committee. That policy that you speak of is over here, and that does have an impact, I agree.
I'm talking about the administration of the policy. Who's going to administer?
And that's not part of this discussion, Councillor. This is the affordable housing.
Well, this is not what I asked to have put on.
No, but
This is, I was the one that requested something added to the agenda. And something added to the agenda is how planning staff is going to be affected by.
doesn't fall on this committee.
No, but not this committee, but you wanted to talk about the policy, not this standing committee. You wanted to talk about the policy that's already with,
No, I'm
Plan.
talking about a group of people that are going to work to make this program work,
That's
which is
our
called
program.
a standing committee.
And that's not a program, Councillor. That's a subcommittee.
I understand that. Where is the work going to fall? What I'm trying to get at is, planning department on the corner of Parnell and Kent is a very busy department. They don't have the people there today to do today's work. They've been asked. I thought, I don't know who asked, actually, tell you, strategic planning, strategic priorities were doing this, were they not? Or who was doing this work prior?
I think this committee, you're correct, did fall under strategic priorities. They feel, in their discussion, that there's a better fit under planning.
Of course.
Being that, no, the manager currently sits on this committee. The manager of planning sits on this committee on behalf of the city.
Yes.
So he is already involved with this committee structure. There's no additional ask of him or over there at all. What you're speaking of is the policy, and that is yet to be defined from council. That's to come back for another discussion. It's already on the queue to be done. But today, we've been asked to review committee structures, the terms of reference. This is what this is for. So we're just taking it from the strategic section and putting in planning, because the manager of planning already serves on this committee as the city's representative.
Well,
So
why
nothing's
don't,
going to change.
why don't we look at the terms of reference, 'cause that's what we asked for, and it's here before us. And then when we talk about the policy piece of it,
Right.
then we can have a discussion
On
Like,
that
exact, on where that work flows to. That would probably look after your concern.
Yeah, they can have all the advisory committees they want, or think they want, whatever. I'm just trying to get to the point is that the people over in that other building are busy. They are really busy, and they get flack all the time from the general public, from members of council, because things not ready, or this hasn't been started yet, or this is on the back burner, or this was in a pile underneath in the eating basket. They're just too busy, and to say when there is administrative work to be done on this particular program, they haven't got time to do it.
So that's another issue. This is, again, on this
Okay.
structure of the committee. So.
And this is not what I asked to put on, this is not what I asked to be put on.
You
And
want
that
the
was my
policy.
fault.
You want the policy.
But the policies don't come here.
Right.
This is the CAC, that doesn't fall on you.
Well, see,
So right now, we just want this one other way, and we'll come back and we will address the other policy, but this is just that the terms, that, again, the manager's already is the city representative on this committee, which is actually to be formalized that the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, again, it flows through the planning department. As the manager's already there, nothing else will change. He's already doing the work that's already involved.
And in terms of staff recommendation, Mr. Forbes is.
He's the person that sits on this committee on
So-
behalf of the
so-
city.
So nothing more will happen. His workflow isn't gonna change for that. However, if we jump out of this for a minute and talk about the policy, which is a different thing, that's where the planning department's work might increase if that policy comes to fruition.
Right, and that's another discussion for the council.
Council.
Yes.
I guess if you look at where would you put affordable housing advisory committee?
We're saying that it fits under planning and
Yeah, I
development.
don't know, unfortunately, I don't know where else you could put it.
Because that also is, he also sits on the provincial body of affordable housing, so it's a good fit.
Like, you know, like, if you send it to government affairs, for example, well, those folks that meet, well, they don't have any,
that's where it came from, Jerry.
yeah, but they wouldn't have any idea on planning principles and practices, right?
But you don't need those for the affordable housing aspect of life. That's
What you do is they're coming in saying, you're gonna have a working group of people that are very much attached to the affordable housing world, and they're gonna come into a meeting and they're gonna talk about what is available, what isn't, and what are the rules. I don't know if intergovernmental affairs can answer that question.
This is
Like,
the operational aspect of life.
Yeah.
Who's gonna set the fees or what the rent for various buildings that have been approved by the city of Charlottetown?
That's under planning.
If you have the planning people doing that,
Yeah.
those are the same people that authorize the building of it, and now they're gonna go on the other side of the coin and tell the landlord how much they're gonna
Right.
charge.
And I think that's a discussion for council, right, the policy side of.
Again, policy.
And I understand what you're saying, like,
But this is the terms for this committee that the manager already sits on, so his workload will not change.
Yeah, but this is not the topic that there was a change in workload
That was done through administration, through me, through them getting involved, because they take
from
from.
strategic priorities.
No, that was not under strategic. Again, I think we're spinning our wheels here. I agree there needs to be some discussion, but this is on the terms of reference, which is again, a fit for the planning department. That's what we're recommending, council can do otherwise.
I guess the only thing I could say, Mike, is, say, for example, the Civic Board of Persons with Disabilities
That goes to
falls
recreation.
under Public Works.
No,
Yeah,
recreation.
falls under Public Works.
Yeah, seniors.
And I go to the meetings. I don't, Scott Adams and whatever, but they take their own minutes. I don't have a staff member, so it's strictly that group are doing all the work, right? And then when they think they've got something that they want council or Public Works to look at, then I forward it on. But outside of that, that's it. The Public Works has no contact with you, that advisory board.
You see, Councillor Cloud, I didn't sit on
Yeah.
disability, because this committee, this CAC, did not appoint me to the advisory call of disability,
Yeah.
the disability one. So they didn't appoint me, I didn't sit.
Yeah.
And I was asked to go, but I said, I'm not a member of the committee.
Yeah.
This group here appoints members, and I was, so,
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
talking about the day-to-day operations that,
And that falls on this doesn't fall on this
Okay.
aspect at all. So
Okay.
we turn what the terms.
I'll wait.
The terms are, again, it's the manager who sits there, which asks him to clarify that role. Okay,
Thank you.
Did everyone have a chance to read?
One other change, Madam Chair. In the back, it goes to 7 appointments, not 9. We're trying to keep all committees no more than 7.
Oh, 9, should be 7.
It will, yeah, that'll be. And did everyone read the terms of reference? That's a pretty heavy terms of reference for a group of volunteers, isn't it? That's a,
This one here?
yeah, a lot of,
I'm not sure if that was even formally received by council.
yeah, I
I
mean,
think, from what Chantel told me, when it fell under spec, that Ronnie McBee had drafted these, and
and it never.
I don't think they ever went anywhere. They're not posted, like, I wasn't able to find them on their drive, and they're not posted.
And maybe that's why it was so difficult for the advisory committee to feel like they were accomplishing, and that was maybe where their frustration and why they stopped coming to some of the meetings, because they
This
were
is pretty deep.
frustrated.
This
It's
is pretty
deep.
darn deep, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
I always
agree.
imagined that the community advisory committee brought back information from the community that would be helpful in creating policies, like whether, I don't know, and maybe I'm misspeaking there, but that's a heavy term of reference. I'm curious to know what the committee thinks of that.
Madam Chair, you can understand Mr. Forbes is sitting there listening to this, and when they say, who's going to do this, they'll gaze around the room and who's the logical person to do
Yes.
this? The same as Mr. Kelly. We gaze around and we see Mr. Kelly, could he do this? And that's where Mr. Forbes would, even though it's a housing advisory committee, would end up going back and asking Mr. Silky or
Mr. Kelly, Tracy had a good point when you stepped out of the room, that she doesn't think this was ever even received by council because it was still in the works when Mr. McPhee was still working here.
So this will then clarify, because all these are going back to council anyway to be affirmed as being the terms of reference. So this is the perfect time for it to go forward at this time.
That's pretty deep when you read it, to expect us, a volunteer or an advisory group to handle this kind of in terms of art, it's pretty heavy. It's
If the committee was to offer, you can defer this one for now if you want to drill down further, but again, this was the draft that was to go forward, other than with those changes that we are proposing. as we
Sounds like just number C there, like to act as a resource for the community, the city councilors and the municipal departments. Like, what would these people know anything about our municipal departments, right?
So depending upon who's on this committee, council, there was some thought of having developers or having others in need of housing and different housing organizations to be there. So that would be, if we have the right mix, then they would be able to have that fulsome contribution to council, whether it's affordable housing or whether it's housing for the disabled or whether there's other aspects as well. So if you're not comfortable this time, this can be deferred and we can bring it back for more discussion.
I have a question. Do you, and I'm not sure the exact process, but I think the Affordable Housing Committee has a meeting coming up, do they?
I don't know.
Because if they did, is this something that the new committee that's been formed should take a look at it
Absolutely.
first?
Yep.
Before, and then come back to here? And because that's where they have their city resource, which is Mr. Forbes can decide, help them figure out what is achievable.
So you are right, Madam Chair. What happened last time is that they did not have the terms of reference and was not formulated. So through the mayor's office, they did strike this piece through, and the former employee, and so it didn't come all the way through. So it would be time to put it back to them for their input and then bring it back here. So if you want to refer or move it to be referred to them for the review and then come back after the
Yeah, I
discussion.
said
What does committee think?
I think that'd be good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let the committee get a look at it and see what they think, and then.
Councillor Cody?
Yeah.
Do you need a resolution for that, or is it just a referral back?
And we'll just put it back.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the Mayor's Task Force on Active Transportation. There's an attachment in here with a few changes and a report from Ramona, I believe.
What's
That's
number
under-
2 there? Did we do number 2? C2? SP and IC.
Oh, you're right, my apologies,
Remove
right, we did not. SPIC
elected.
recommendation to remove one elected official from each standing committee, so we'll back up to that one first.
So, Madam Chair, there was a request that the committee look at removing one member of council from all committees. And that way it would lessen the workload of a number of councillors. And so it was referred back to you for your discussion and your review to see what you feel may be appropriate.
Well, I think legislation dictates that we have to have 5.
No, if you recall, we used to have 3 on each committee.
Yeah.
Problem happened when there was a need for a mover and a seconder, and it was only 3. The chair normally doesn't enter the debate,
Yeah.
and so he or she only votes in the event of a tie. And with 3 on there, it was hard to have a seconder. And so with review and the new structure, council said 5 would take care of that, and it would leave that odd number. And again, there is room for moving in second from the floor. And if by chance there's anybody who's missing, it wouldn't hold up the business of the day.
What about with 4, you would have a tie of 2 each? Who makes the
because
decision
The
then?
chair would only vote in tie. So,
But no,
But would never be a tie.
in theory. Now, if there's only 2 members
And
there.
Robert's rule says that the chair of a meeting's main role is to break ties. Well, you can't have a tie under those numbers.
Unless a person doesn't, unless there's a person doesn't show up at the meeting, so.
Right.
yeah.
you have to go down to 3 to have a tie. Or more than the chair creates the tie.
And that's why it's here. Again, you folks are the ones that serve on these committees. You know your workloads, and so this was just
Didn't
asked
we
to be a
already,
point of consent.
didn't we already go down this rabbit
I
hole?
thought we already discussed
Well,
this.
do we have, Peter, do we have 5 because we want to have 5, or the province told us to have 5?
They didn't tell us to have 5. We went this way in consultation with our legal to see what is the best approach,
Mhm.
knowing that the chairs only voted in event of a tie, and it was felt that that would be the number that would work best.
But
And this
the record, the enumeration committee, they made the recommendation too, back to the province and the MPA, that it would be better that if we went back to 3 and the mayor didn't become a voting member and put it back the way it was.
Right.
But
the
that
province
fell on
didn't
deaf
change.
ears.
Right. The province is still it's on the MJ. The mayor does sit on all committees.
And that's because of the smaller municipalities where the council is so much smaller that they really need
They
that
need
member.
that vote, yeah,
Whereas,
they need that
was
chair.
there not some conversation around the larger municipalities having a different, like an exception to that? I know we had a conversation about that at some point, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did.
Each municipality have their own committee structures, and so for here, it's felt that that would be the approach to have 5 on. But again, we're open to your direction.
And one of the reasons was to reduce their workload?
The reason that the ask is for 4, yes, to go to 4, because that would then, in theory, free up all of you from one.
But that was the committee's thinking, was to reduce the workload. Who's on the committee?
Strategic.
Yeah.
There is Councillor Ramsey, the mayor, Councillor Tweel, Councillor Duran.
Yeah, that's,
Brevard?
And Councilor Rivers.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's in there, he left the meeting, so he didn't really go home.
Correct. So, if you wish to further another discussion another day, that's your option, and you give that some thought, and then come back and have that discussion. And we can do some more research for you if you want us to check out more information.
It doesn't seem like we could really change it from 5.
Pardon?
It doesn't really seem like we could change it from 5.
Well,
does
You
it?
could.
Could you?
Well, yeah, it leaves you with 4, and then the chair doesn't vote, so you have 3 members. So you basically you'd have to have
Oh, yes, yes.
somebody not show up, or there would always be a yay and a nay. Like you're not gonna come across that situation every meeting. We've talked
Oh,
about
I
this. I
see.
think there's,
Okay. Should it,
it's an ongoing discussion. I think if there's a way to do it, which I think there is, like we don't need 5, 4 will work, that there's nothing handcuffing us for 4. We should look at trying to have some small wins here, to be honest, like,
so should this go to council for more of a council decision, or is?
well, I think
don't
they're
know.
gonna come back and say, what did the committee recommend? That's what the
Okay.
committee is here
Of
for.
course,
That's why it's
yes,
here.
that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's right.
Yeah, okay.
But back to people in this room, are we overworked? Like, honestly, we work hard, but are we overworked?
I don't have any problem with the committees I'm on, but I don't know if,
I don't either, just it keeps coming up, and all I'm saying is, if we could get a couple small wins here, then I don't see this being a huge deal, to be honest, like,
What does that mean? What do you mean by small win?
well, if people are asking for it, if we
Oh, I see.
accommodate, then say, okay, you know what?
Okay.
We're moving forward here, as opposed to,
But it's unfortunate, Jason, it's only being requested by 2 people.
I don't know. I just keep
I don't want to
hearing
go into this in an open forum, but
Then you probably shouldn't say anything if you go in that direction.
Well, I think maybe it's
But you
something that we
can't
could
vote to
ask full
force it,
council
force
to
it
talk
time.
about.
So could the committee's recommendation be that this become a, this really, I mean, could our committee recommend that it go to council for council's conversation, or do we have to have a recommendation?
You should have a recommendation, but I think Councilman McLeod has a point that if there's issues you want to raise, then it's best raised in closed session
Yeah.
before you come out, and so we can defer this to a future time, and we can do some research for you in the interim.
I agree.
I agree.
So you need to move to defer, gentlemen.
I mean, it affects all members of council, one way or the other. So therefore, I think they should have some input to it.
So what are we
Unless they're too
deferring
busy.
it to, for what?
To the next meeting for closed session, unless you're staying today and have a closed session.
They get it.
It's up to committee what they want to do.
Well, I don't think it's that pressing an issue. It's important to some people, so maybe we could defer to council with it.
So we
If this-
defer to the committee at the next meeting of
Yeah.
the committee.
Yeah. Get it there as soon as possible, but like,
So you want to defer it to council or defer it back to our committee to have an
Have
in-camera
a closed session.
closed session?
one or the other. It's, I prefer to go to full council because that's another 5 or 6 people
matter.
that
But you
would
still
have
need to
some say.
make, but you still need to make a recommendation, Counselor.
Oh, yeah.
Are you allowed to make a recommendation that it goes to council for further discussion?
You shouldn't. I mean,
Okay.
You should have a defined one here with a defined course.
Okay.
Unless you're, again, tied up and you're split, then obviously it needs to move forward. But the
So
council
does
wants to
everyone
bring some
want that?
issues forward, so that's why he's asking for a defer until next meeting.
Do that, or, you know what, if you just want to talk about it, I'm quite willing to move to win close if you just want.
It's up to committee. If you want to,
What do you think, Jason?
I'm not in any rush.
yeah, I don't mind, we're here, I think it's gonna be a pretty short discussion, to
It
be
is.
honest.
Yeah.
So, move into closed if you want, and
I'll second that.
deal with it.
So we can do that at the end? or-
Sure.
Because.
Yeah, we just have,
that's what we
um,
said.
Up to the
Yeah, we still have the other terms of reference to go through.
Yeah, okay. So
Yep.
we'll move on to the mayor's task force and on active transportation. You want to take the lead on that, Peter?
That's not in our roof sheets.
Review your package.
Yeah, it's there. It's close to the
The
end.
number in these pages.
I know.
It is the end.
Yeah.
Right again.
Recommend changes to the mayor's active transportation
Oh, yeah.
terms of reference, yeah.
So it is there, proposing that this now be with the proposed changes in the report for the Active Transportation Committee. It did go to sustainability, they're there in support, and it's here for you to move forward to council if you want to concur.
And the underlying parts are in there where they made the changes, so it's pretty easy to tell where there's not very many changes. There's one
Nothing
under
like that.
meeting frequency, is that right?
Good, right.
And the other one is under funding.
Right, and also, it's on the committee, so, and sustainability won't be as involved as previously, although they would work with the committee. On page 2, you'll see they funnel through environment.
Oh, yes, I see that.
So
Yeah,
they'll be working with public works as well.
right.
Um,
Yes.
Are we open for discussion, Dr.?
Yes.
Why this committee any more than any other committee? Demanding to meet with managers and all that stuff, like why this committee?
I'm sorry, Councilor.
Well, one of the suggestions is that they want to meet with all the managers at different times for 4 times a year.
So only if required, if they are needing to talk about, let's say, roadway infrastructure or proposing new project, whether it be under trails through Parks and Rec, or whether it be under public works, or under sustainability. They will not sit there all the time. They'll only be brought forward if required to clarify or to speak on certain topics. But the intent is not to have them there all the time, definitely not.
But isn't that what the role of the environment department is?
And yes,
Like-
but.
Like, well, you know, I go to the board, the civic board of disabilities, I don't say, they don't get a chance to go into all these other committees. I take it forward and I just present it to my manager, Public Works, and then it goes from there.
And so sustainability does not always have the answers, so that's why she works with and has been working with Parks and Rec, and also Public Works. Again, it's only an ask going forward that if there's a need, then that is built into this process. But the intent is for them not to go every meeting, absolutely not.
Well, this is making it pretty written in stone that they'll be meeting 4 times a year with them. As part of the regular meeting schedule, the task force will have the opportunity to meet once per year with the manager of each of the relevant Department of Active Transportation, Public Works, Parks, Recreation, Police, Service, Environment, Sustainability. These department meetings will occur quarterly. The department manager, chief, or designated will attend these meetings once per year in the mayor's office will coordinate.
And from what I understand, from what I was advised, that if they were requested, if you wish greater clarity, but my understanding was they would only go if they are requested to go for specific items.
It doesn't say that in her recommendation. It just says, rather than funnel of the task force goals and concerns through environment, sustainability staff and standing committee, members of the task force meet quarterly with one of the relevant departments to discuss concerns and goals. Just says that they will meet.
So then you put the word may, which means that only if required would go there, and that should take care of that. So we may meet.
Task force, and agency can make recommendations.
We'll go back and get greater clarity, but at the discussion, that was my understanding, Council, how that would work, but I think we do need to clarify this further.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost, yeah, like, I don't know, it just seems to me a little strict for me, but I'm only one person.
Suggestion to defer, and we'll bring it back again.
Is that wishes of committee that we defer it to get the
For greater clarity.
Yeah.
more clarification?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. And the last thing before we move into closed session is the couple of really minor changes in the Arts Advisory. And you'll see the amendment that they want to change the, used to be the Economic Development Officer, but now it's the Tourism Officer. That's one. And, let's see.
Yeah, they're just changing the date of the report. It was 2013 rather than 2012.
Right.
And on the back page, for consistency of advisory, so LL3. to 7. So this will also have maximum of 7 people as well.
Right.
Not 8.
So that they all have 7. Any discussion on that, or is that good
I'm
to?
good.
Yeah, it's good.
So someone want to move that we refer that to council for, moved by Councillor Duffy, seconded by Councillor McLeod,
What?
that we,
Yeah.
yeah. So our recommendation is to approve that. Okay. All right, so I need now a motion to move into closed session as per section, which section?
Like, we didn't do, this, the main revision, standing committee.
To all the other standing committees, Madam Chair.
Oh, that's right, we missed the main one, sorry. Yeah,
So if you're going through that, the different committees did make some recommended changes, and under economic development,
right, here we
the
go.
officer. The changes are highlighted there for your review, and if you concur, we can move on to the next one. For the most part, they're minor changes.
Most of the administration
Yeah,
worries, yeah.
and it's just changes of different names of events and things for economic development. So we're taking because Ramona is now a manager, you're just taking out the word officer and switching it to manager.
So there's some tidying up of wording, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
So again, if economic development is okay, then
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
the next
Yeah.
one, under environment and sustainability,
Yeah.
again, minor changes. After that one is finance, audit, and tendering.
There was no feedback received.
So I think for the most part, they were.
Okay, so it's pretty well in there.
So just to be, if we could just go back, so just to be clear, so the skunk and raccoon now falls under public works.
So,
Yeah, we
one
do
is
do the other, right? We do the
pest control.
pest control, but we didn't, for some reason, we left skunk and raccoon under environment, but now we're going to move it to public works.
So now they're all under public
Well, all
works.
of the other public. Only makes sense, I guess. I mean, we'll still work together with, with Ramona and everything when it comes to environment issues with critters, but, yeah, just sort of make that point.
So you took out so can we move on to finance then?
Yep. That's it.
What's with we're taking out the borrowing bylaw, is that like just not in existence anymore?
There's a 2012 one there, Madam Chair.
Oh, I see,
There's a-
yes,
there's a
yes,
general.
got it.
Okay, sorry, back in the environment sustainability, it denotes that skunk and raccoon be protected emergency services.
So that's going to, sorry, at the committee, it was discussed that that be going to public works.
Okay,
So
was
that
this
should
just
come.
recently, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
And then the next one, after finance is human resources and comms, again, minor changes. And clarifying names. They did take away to review the terminals for the mayor, because as you know, the province turned that down, so that has been removed.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then after HR is the parks and recreation and leisure activities.
So we're not disbanding the committee now, they're gonna act as the liaison, is that what they're doing? Okay. That's the only change there.
Under planning and heritage,
Just,
sorry,
I'm sorry, just under Parks and Rec, so what are we doing with the seniors engagement?
No, the meeting that was set up to standing committee committee chairs and department heads were asked to, about the effectiveness of their advisories, and they're just indicating that they want to keep that advisory.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's the subcommittee.
Oh, is effective, right, sorry, yeah, okay, good.
So when we get to planning, is that where we would look to see whether or not that affordable housing policy would be under that? Because I don't see it there.
So that hasn't gone through council yet, Madam Chair.
Right, okay.
Okay.
And then protective and emergency. Again, the new station, that's already off, that's already done, and we're beyond those. And after protective services is the public works and urban beautification.
And they no longer have the Urban Beautification Advisory Board, do they?
The skunk and the raccoon.
Here's the stuff.
Yeah, that's too bad.
I was gonna back to-
Yeah.
And after the public works and urbanization, the strategic priorities and intergovernmental cooperation. Youth engagement is still staying with them.
And so we really can't approve this change yet, because all they have is a request that this be moved to planning, but we've referred this back.
And you can hold this one back as you have, hold that one back too until that's been decided.
Right.
And the last one is the water and sewer too. Again, no changes
No
there.
changes, yeah. So I guess you need a resolution to refer the,
All those other than the ones.
other than
Planning.
planning
And
and
strategic.
strategic.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, moved by Councilor McLeod, seconded by Councilor Duffy, that all of them except for strategic planning and
Strategic priorities and planning.
strategic
Yeah.
priorities and planning are the only two that don't go to council. Yeah. Okay,
In favor. In favor.
in favor, okay, yeah. Did we cover everything now, Tracy?
I think so, yes.
So now we just need a motion to move into closed session.
What is it, Chair? D, I think under section 119(1)D, I believe, Madam Chair, is HR.
Okay, section, what is it, 11?
D, I think.
Okay, 119D. We move into closed session.
Yeah.
Okay, moved by Councilor McLeod, seconded by Councilor Cody, Deputy Mayor Cody, sorry.